Okay. Hi, Sarah. I'm so excited to be doing this with you. So thank you again for having these conversations in public.
Yeah, it's fun. We're pretty good at it, I would say. Just
We're good
yeah.
at it. We enjoy it. It creates something, and so that always feels good to kind of feel like we're doing something. And so this new series is more around what does it look like if you already have a group, but you're looking at saying, okay, maybe I want to change it. Maybe I want to just kind of take a look at it. I've done it a few times. I call it reignite the group because it's that idea of kind of looking at it and getting back to that place of like being really excited about it and confident in what it is, and also kind of taking the feedback that you got. And so taking the wisdom that you have and from other participants and like just kind of putting that spark back into it. So it feels like it's almost like a new group, even though it's not, because it's very much grounded in what was done before.
Yeah. And I love that because we're gonna get to look at my, first program, Marketing Like We're Human, with that fresh perspective and with this idea of making it even more meaningful and yeah, with all your expertise and advice. So can't wait.
Okay. So what I love to kind of do when I'm walking through this process is really we're going to talk through the VIP process that we did in our last series, so we'll go through that. But I first love to just kind of understand the history of the program. Like how long, like where did it come from? How long did you do it for? How many changes has it gone through? And kind of where are you at now with it as you come into these conversations?
Yeah. Okay, so it started in 2018, and I was in a community or like a mastermind, and really just playing. Back then, I still had my LinkedIn consulting business, and just kind of noticing myself wanting to pivot out of that, and and so it was in conversations in that mastermind that well, actually people kept telling me, why don't you write a book about this, because I was talking to them about, well, I think I must have written the manifesto back then. About back then it was called the Gentle Marketing Revolution, and so people are like, you should write a book about it. And I said yes, but first I want to do a program. So I know you often work with authors and then help them create the program. For me, it was like, no, I need to have the stories from the people in the book. And so I was like, no, I'm going to first create the program around the 7 P's of humane marketing. And then the book will come after. And so that's when I started it. Can't remember the exact date, but yeah, somewhere 2018, 2019. And so it's been running. Usually, first, I think I did 3 cohorts per year, and then slowed down to 2 cohorts per year. At the beginning, it was 3 months. And then just recently, last year, I experimented with 5 weeks because, in answer to the market, people have too much going on. So it was the length, but it was also the investment. And so I was like, well, let me try if the same thing can be done in 5 weeks. And that's kind of also why I told you, well, it might be interesting to, talk about this one, because I just feel like there's a lot in there because, yeah, clearly we kind of condensed everything into 5 weeks. And so I'm just wondering, okay, is there things that we don't need to be doing also? Because now there's the selling program, right? We did a little bit of pricing, selling in the Marketing Like We're Human program that maybe we can take out. So yeah, that's the history.
Very cool. And I love kind of that idea of saying like this is, when you started, this was the first program, right, of this. But now you're kind of saying it's now more part of a bigger ecosystem, a bigger garden, right? Because as
Right.
you've built this out and you've been responding to what people need and noticing kind of the supports they need. And so anytime we do start putting it into that garden or that ecosystem, we do want to think about, well, how does the next thing, I always call it the what's next, right? Like they've had this great experience with you, they've learned something, they're making, progress, and they're saying, what's next? What else can I do with you? And as you put those what's next together, sometimes it does kind of impact and you turn around and say, okay, well, I started it here, but now let me kind of put it all the way over there. So I love
Yeah.
that. As you were talking too, it reminded me of just an interesting anecdote that someone had told me that a publisher had told one of their clients before they were going to be willing to say, yeah, I'll publish your book. They said, do a couple groups and see if you can get people into it and see what the response is. So I actually think what you did, although maybe not kind of the typical approach, is starting to kind of make sense for people because yes, you can gather the stories. You also start to really see what are the things that really work for people and like what are the most confusing parts or what are the parts that people are like, this doesn't make sense. And you can start to kind of really put that together, which then can lead into a book, which then obviously is a bigger audience and kind of one of the signposts to get someone in.
Yeah. I just really wanted the book not to just be, here's my framework. I wanted it to
Yes.
be a lived experience. And so, yeah, I would do it like that again. Like the
Yeah.
book really came alive because of these stories. Uh, so, yeah.
Yes. And as a reader, it gives for a really interesting experience because you name that co-creation and you
Right.
name the experience and you name, the clients that helped build it and the groups that you had and the conversations you had. So it just makes it a more, I don't know, flavorful read because it isn't
Yeah,
just one person's perspective. It's kind of all coming together, which is really cool.
exactly. Yeah.
As you think about kind of this group program going forward and kind of where we are in the market and all that's going on, what are you hoping for when it comes to kind of the end product of our conversations and getting ready to kind of put this group back out onto the market?
What am I hoping for? What am I hoping for the program? Is that
Yeah, the program, but also for you, like I think it's all the things, but the program is definitely part of it. But if there's more to that comes up for
mm,
you, that can be brought into the space too.
yeah. I'm really hoping that it it gets the credit it deserves because it really is one of the programs I know out there that teaches this different approach to marketing. So the humane marketing approach, the ethical marketing approach. And it's actually a good program for people who are just starting out. And so they're not only learning how to market, but how to market from within, create the product or the service that is aligned with their ideal client. So it's really a program that is about the foundations of a business, or it's a good program for people who have, like me, have been marketing in a certain way, the old paradigm way, and then want to pivot to, this more conscious, ethical, humane marketing. So that those are the two clienteles that I usually serve with this program. Either it's like I'm fresh, I'm starting out, or usually it's like I've been in business for a year or two, right? They kind of know, but then you look at their website and it's like the same as everybody else's website. Um, and so what they learn is to start from who they are. So we start with the first P and, really finding out who they are. And so the it helps those people establish these foundations, but then also I want it to be a program, and it already is, but I think it just could be helping so many more people who are tired of the old way of marketing. And I at the same time I noticed that, there a lot has happened between 2018 and 2025. And so I think another thing that we can kind of change or adapt is picking people up where they're at, because they have much more advanced knowledge already about what is ethical and what is not. So I had to do a lot more educating back in 2018 and kind of like shake people and say, here's why this is wrong, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a long explanation, but to say basically to really make it stand out as an amazing group experience, to do your marketing in a different way that is aligned with you and who you are.
And I just I mean, I have a bias to groups, so I just want to acknowledge that part, obviously. But I also feel like this type of program is such a good fit for groups because even in 2025, it's still going against the grain to have
Mm,
this approach, right? And so anytime we're kind of counterculture or like we're doing things that don't seem normal or any of those things, it's so powerful to do in a group program because you at least create that insular group where it's like this is normal. This is
mhm.
okay. This isn't crazy. This does make sense. And so you're not kind of out there floating around getting all these other messages, but you're kind of saying, like, all together, we're committing to doing it this way. And there's a connection that happens, but there's also a momentum that gets created.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get started on the vibe promise. So when we're creating a brand new group, it's a little easier because we're kind of like we're just putting it together. When we're reigniting a group, sometimes we want to talk about what's happened, and sometimes it is kind of fresh and new. So I just want to acknowledge and give space for that. That it's like as we're looking at this, you might be thinking back to those times where it was a 3 month program and you were doing, longer, more cohorts per year, or you might be referring back to the last time you did it where it was a shorter one. Or you might be kind of like, well, this is part that might change. And so just kind of noticing that all of those are in this conversation. So
Yeah.
with the VIP process, just to kind of walk through it, this is the foundation to the group, and it's kind of saying once we have clarity on these three pieces, which I'll walk you through, all our other kind of decisions become easier for us. We look back at the pieces of this, and it really helps us to kind of say, yes, we want to do this. Oh, we should consider this, that type of stuff. So that's why we start here. It's very foundational. And the VIP is the vibe promise, which is like, what is the environment or the essence, or like, how are we going to feel in this group? And we look at it because, the same content can come across very differently depending on that vibe, depending on that essence. Then we've got the I, which is ideal participant, which it sounds like we already kind of covered that a little bit. So this is who is the program meant for. And again, it's not that other people can't take part in it. It's that we're designing it for this particular participant or participants so that the
Mhm.
decisions we make are in support of them, not in support of like the one-offs that might come into it. And then the last one is the program promise, which is what we promise our participants will accomplish and or experience in our group. And so this is our purpose. This is our promise of we are going to get you to this point. And so this is really the foundational part of what are we saying they're going to be able to do and accomplish through this program. And this is where we put tons of attention when we're making decisions about how the program works and what activities to include, because it's all in support of that promise we've made to them. And if something doesn't help with that promise, then we don't have it in the program. Even if it's like great information or an exercise that we love, if it's not in service of that program promise, then we kind of say like, okay, that's a what's next program or a phase two or something like that. So
Sounds good.
how does that sound to go through the VIP? So
Yeah.
let's start with the vibe promise and just kind of what are you imagining and or what have you experienced or created as kind of the vibe, the essence, the environment that this group will have?
Yeah. Um, the vibe is like what I often hear and read in the testimonials and case studies that I've done. Um, People feel a huge sense of relief because they come in with this idea of what marketing is, and they leave with a completely different notion around marketing and a lot of freedom and, breath of fresh air, they always say, and creativity. And so a lot of letting go of the old and co-creating the new. And so the vibe really is this group of people who are willing to try new things or and are stepping into yeah, the kind of like the scary thing, because marketing is still scary for a lot of people. So they are definitely, stepping into courage. But because of the way I hold the group and create the safe space, they have this this exhale of just feeling, oh, this is a group where I can show up real and have conversations that are usually very difficult.
Yeah, right. And I imagine some of that is the uniqueness of that. That sigh of relief is because they are in so many other spaces and places where that isn't the case. And so it is unique and it is kind of like, okay, this doesn't have to be so scary. Yes, there's courage, but it also doesn't have to be so icky and so pushy and so all
Totally.
those words, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Anything else that you would add to the vibe?
There's a lot of vulnerability because I show up with that and already like in the videos, because it's a hybrid program, so people get to watch some of the videos. And I could imagine that for some people who have been in a very different setting, this is like unusual to them with how much vulnerability I show up and how much truth telling I show up. That again, it's just kind of like, oh, this is different. I can really just show up as myself, right? So yeah, it feels real to be in a group like that. And I know for a fact that very many of the past participants, they stay in touch. They still have Zoom calls every now and then because they just kind of feel this bonding as well.
I love that. I always say like one of the indicators that no one will ever tell you about that you have a great group is like friendships are created and continue, right? Like
Yeah.
best friends are found or whatever.
Mhm.
And it is that idea of like the safety that you've created and the experience that you've created bonds them and then they stay in touch and they're kind of like these are my people. And I think as an entrepreneur myself, it can be a very lonely experience. And so it makes sense that as you're learning marketing or you're kind of refreshing how you do marketing, that the people that you get to learn that with become the people that you stay in touch with that become, your business buddy or whatever it is you call them. And it's like, oh, let's kind of help each other stay connected to this feeling and this hope and this different way of doing things. And so that makes a lot of sense that that kind of connection
Yeah.
comes from it. And so you kind of already talked about the ideal participants that you've got two. There's kind of the people who are like 2 years or less in business and still trying to figure it out, and they're looking for something that feels right to them and feels like a way that they can show up. And then there's also those that might have been in business a little bit longer and they've tried kind of the typical things and it's just not aligned and it's not fitting for them. And so they're saying, like, I'm looking for something different, even though I've been in business for a while. Would that be a
Yeah.
good summary of the ideal participant for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And oftentimes the ones who already have businesses are doing their marketing. Um, I think they are attracted specifically by the title, marketing like we're human, right? They are curious about what does that mean. Uh, where the other ones are more like, okay, yeah, I need marketing. And if it's like we're human, that's great. That's what I want, right?
Yes.
Where the second kind is like, yeah, I'm doing marketing, but it doesn't feel like we're human at all. Or
Yes.
even like I'm in business, but it doesn't feel like human, or I want these more human relationships. And so, usually, what happens for those people is, first of all, they do a complete revamp of their website, their about page, usually, because that's kind of like what we look at as well in the first two P's. It's like, who are you? And have you created a business that is starting from who you are? And very often for that second group, no, it's not the case, they just went out and like everybody else and goes after the ideal client, the target client, right? And so we go back and say, yeah, but what if we created this business starting from you and who you are? So it that's why there's these two audiences, really, the ones who really are still like, you and I know, if you're a year into your business, you really just literally started, right? So
Yes.
so they're still fresh, very malleable. You can go and change your website. But once you have a business for 5, 7, 10 years, you feel like okay, I know how this works. But those are the ones who are attracted to the like we're human. It's like, oh, but I'm applying all these rules from the business world, but somehow it doesn't feel like we're human. So yeah,
Yeah.
those are the
Yeah.
two.
I just love that even within the title, the two different ideal participants, it's like the marketing is most appealing to the people 2 years or less, because that's what they're like, I got to work on my marketing. And for those that have been in business for longer than that, it's like it's the human part. That
Yeah.
human piece is what's
Yeah.
missing. So that's a really cool way that the title kind of speaks to both.
Yeah. And I just noticed this now as we were speaking. I never thought about it like that before. Yeah.
This is why we like to have these conversations,
Exactly.
because
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
The wisdom comes. And then the
Yeah.
final piece is the program promise. And so this again is, what are we promising them that they'll accomplish and or experience in the time together? And I think this will be an interesting part, because my assumption is the program promise is part of where things had to change a little to go from that 3 month to the shorter program. Just because, with a program promise, a lot of times there's the implementation part that needs to happen that can't always happen in shorter programs. So when you think of this program, what would you say the program promise is?
I think the promise is really to have this freedom of thinking about marketing that is, aligned with who you are. Like the confidence to market your own way. That's a big piece, especially for the ones who are just starting out. And for the ones who are experienced, it is that, because I often say the program is like a personal development and pragmatic marketing and business advice. And so for the ones who are first are just starting out, it's both. For the ones who are 10 years into business, it's more of the personal development that they can now bring into their business side and really understand, oh, like it's all one. I'm creating a holistic business, right? This holistic part. Well, that's what it means. We're not compartmentalizing between the human and the business. We're just uniting the two. And so that's the promises, and that's where I see the biggest ahas. So it's not, you know already, Carrie, it's not a program that is about, specific tactics, how to, create LinkedIn posts or Facebook ads, even though sometimes that's part of what we discuss in the P of promotion, but it's not the big part of the program. It's more like getting this feeling of, oh, I can talk about this. Oh, this is marketing. And then just have them actually do it. Where a lot of times they're frozen because they feel like, oh, but there's so much stuff that I need to kind of follow that they don't do anything. So a lot of the people are actually, doing the marketing after when I check in with them 6 months after and
Mhm.
launching their programs and just feeling much better doing it. Yeah.
I think that's such an interesting point in this, right? Because what comes up for me is it's almost like unlocking, right? It's unlocking for them that there is this way to personalize it, to humanize it, so that it isn't this, here's my program. Like I'm imagining some of the other programs that are out there where it's like, here's your 30-day content plan or what, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it really is unlocking them to kind of have that freedom and that confidence to say, this is what fits for me. This is what fits for the people that I want to work with. This is what fits with the business I want to build.
Yeah.
And then it's about kind of that consistency piece and what does that look like? And yeah, sure, some of that might come up in conversations, but it's more that unlocking. It's creating the environment, giving them the tools, resources, and perspectives that helps them to say, like, what do I want this to be? And
Yeah.
what could this possibly look like for me?
Yeah. And then when we, get into the content and the resources piece, yeah, we can create a plan, right? And say, okay, these are the platforms that I focus on, for example. That's part of it. But to me, that's not the big differentiator because every kind of marketing program can offer that. The big differentiator is having them understand all the things that are considered marketing that they never thought was marketing. And that has mainly to do with who they are and really, yeah, unlocking that and allowing themselves to show up like that.
Yeah.
That's the bigger
Yeah.
prong.
Right. Allowing themselves and encouraging them and empowering them to do it. So it's not like, oh, now I have to put my marketing hat on, my marketing skin
Exactly.
on, right?
Yeah,
It's that wholeness, that whole piece that you were talking about.
right.
Very cool. When you think back to kind of, let's say, the last one or two cohorts that you did for this group, what what went really well? Like what were you really happy with?
Hmm. Um, the connection between the people, um, the support they gave each other, and yeah, just the level of conversation, the open conversation we were able to have. I don't feel like I show up in this program as a teacher. I just really show up as, I don't know, I don't, as Sarah, I don't need to give it a title. Um, but they are, participants are still always curious. They always ask, well, what works? What works now? And then we can unpack that and say, well, depends, what works for you, first of all, but then also, yeah, which platform. And so it's more the conversations that are happening in the calls. Um, and the videos kind of lead up to that, right? The videos are kind of like, yeah, it's the homework that they need to have as an understanding, and then we can go much deeper into the calls. So I think that's what works well. If you maybe you're going to ask me, well, what is, in comparison the 5 week and the 3 month program. I do feel like there's too much in the program right now. Um, so yeah, that's why we're talking about this. Like it did feel like, okay, there's some overwhelm after 5 weeks, and yeah, it's just a lot. So
Yeah.
that's what.
And was that overwhelm present when you had the longer period of time or that wasn't?
No, it allowed for more time for sure, the 3 months program. The issue with the 3 months program is then, people have vacations and I don't know, it just didn't like people were not present at the calls consistently like they were for the 5 week.
Yeah.
And so that's why I was like, well, maybe the 5 week actually works better because people can just plan for that time where 3 months almost feels like, oh, it's like a community and I can show up whenever I want, right? So,
Yeah. It's an interesting thing that's going on in the market because, on one hand, we can really say what you're talking about there, where it's like even a season feels like a lot to commit to, right? Like 3 months, like I don't know where I'm going to be in 3 months. And so
yeah,
kind of there's this piece of it. There's also this quick fix kind of culture that we have where it's like, between reels and shorts and all this, like we're just taking in information so quickly that we're
yeah,
kind of are like expecting that from it. And yet, we also, if we're honest with ourselves, we know that quick isn't necessarily how change happens. Sometimes seismic change happens quickly, right? It's not that it's impossible. But when we think about, hey, I want to, change how I market my business or, how I approach my business, how I design it around my human design, whatever it is, it's like, oh, this takes time, right? We have to try
yeah,
something and fail at it and try
mhm,
again and get information. And so it's a really interesting thing because there are programs out there right now. Like, I know of one that's like a 2-year program and you think, okay, how are people, there's some people can commit to a 2-year program and others 3 months is too long. And
yeah,
it feels like such this point of tension. And then I also think too, like what I always say is like you can you can pick the resource or you can pick the expectation, right? So if you tell me you only have 5 weeks, right, as a client, then you have to be negotiable on what the expectation of what you can get out of that 5 weeks is.
mm,
Versus if you say, I want to, in this instance, I want to change my marketing approach so that it's, based on being a human, both for myself and my clients. So that's the expectation. Then I always say, well, then you need to be negotiable on, the resources because that will take more time. And so it's this really, it's a part of tension is
yeah,
really what's
it
happening
is. Yeah.
in the
What often
market.
happen,
Go ahead.
sorry, what often happened is that I basically came up with a flat fee for people who wanted to do it again
Mm,
because they know, I have very smart, conscious clients, and so they're like, uh, you know, I think I can go deeper with this. And so they're like, I'd love to come again. And so I
yeah,
started putting out this, $300 flat fee.
yeah,
And yeah, several people came more than once. Even the 3 month program, some people did it again, right?
yeah,
Because they just wanted to go deeper. And so
yes,
that's the option that I came up with. And first I thought, well, maybe that means it's not a good enough program if they can't get it in the first round. And even people were a bit embarrassed. Yeah, I'm the one who's coming twice. But I'm like, no, I think it means that you just know that you can go deeper. Um, and so, yeah, it was like very beneficial for those people because I look at them now and they're just, they're like flowers, like blooming. They're truly themselves now.
yeah,
And yeah, their marketing is going very well because they're just communicating through who they are.
yeah. And this is why a lot of times I'll say, I look at groups to be repeatable, right? So there's the repeatableness for you as the group leader, so you're not constantly having to like come up with a new program. But there is also the repeatableness of your clients. And depending on the group, sometimes it doesn't make sense that that first group that they're in is repeatable. It's more like a maintenance repeatable thing. But at somewhere along that ecosystem, somewhere in that garden, there is this part that says like, no, we do want to go deeper and we don't have to do new things. We don't know
Right.
new information. We just need more time. We need,
Yeah.
I mean, we're changing all the time, especially if you're taking these actions, right? You're
Yeah.
learning things. And so even that idea of knowing yourself, 6 months later, you're going to look at that different, whether it's because you've done a new assessment or you've learned something or you tried something and you said, wow, this feels really good. Or I thought I really wanted that and no, I don't, right? Like
Yeah.
there's
True.
learning that
Yeah.
takes place. And so I love that, you recognize that that was part of it. And then you kind of said like, okay, here, how do I make this more accessible to the people that want to repeat it?
Yeah.
Very cool. So I think we kind of end here just in terms of the conversation. What I want to just plant the seed and kind of talk through really quickly is one of the things I love to do when we're reigniting groups is make sure that we bring the voice of past participants into the conversation too, because they're the ones that did it, right? And that they can give us a perspective. And so oftentimes that can be, it can be a survey that you may have already done, right? If you've done surveys, it can be you having conversations with a few of the participants, or it can be me having conversations with a few of the participants. And what we're looking for in this conversation, what I really want to know is what was so good that if I changed it, you'd be like, that is a ridiculous decision. And what were you hoping for or expecting that didn't happen? And so those are kind of the two pieces of it. So when we think about bringing the voice of a participant into this process, what would you like the approach to be? Is it, a survey? Do you have some of that information? Is it you? Is it me? What would feel good for you?
Yeah, I think it'd be great if it was you, because most of the participants, like I did an in-depth case study with, not
Yeah.
all of them, but the ones that stood out, right?
Yeah.
Um, but even though it was a case study and it was a video and all of that, usually people just tell you the positive things, right?
Totally. Yes.
So I think it'd be good if it was you so that they can also share, well, what was missing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe especially with looking forward, like what would you take out so
Yeah.
that we know that piece is like, okay, yeah, we don't need that in the next edition or next
Yeah,
cohort.
very cool. And that's part of why I offer it is because, first of all, it can be hard to ask for feedback about your own group, like just owning that part. It's like, oh, it's my baby, and now I'm asking you about it. And the second one is it can be hard if someone's kind of, has something that they're like, I don't really get this, or I didn't like this part. It's really hard to say that to the person who, you respect and is running it. And so, yeah, let's do that. Let's make sure that I'll have some conversations with past participants, and then I can bring that perspective into the conversation.
Awesome.
Yay.
Yeah, that'd be
Okay.
great.
Well, we'll end this session here and we'll come back and we'll bring that voice of the participant back. And we're also going to look through some of the pivotal moments of the program so that we can kind of start talking through that. Thank you,
Awesome.
Sarah.
Thank you, Carrie.